All right, welcome back. So, it's been a while. As per usual, I've been busy as fuck with other things and work and real life stuff. So, in this one, we will be covering, instead of doing just props to a pedestrian model, we will be doing clothing to a pedestrian model. Like I think I might have mentioned last time, there's two different versions of this. Some models are split up into different bits and pieces where you have each clothing item being their own model. And then there's the ones like the one we're going to be working on today that is made into one single file, basically. For the one single file, you don't have to buy the Patreon, like the $15 Patreon for FiveM. Whereas the other one, where they're split into pieces, you would have to buy the $15 Patreon one, so you are allowed to stream clothing content because it falls into the same category as that one. So I will be covering that as well, because that one is somewhat the same, but you would have to rename some files in a specific way, and you would still have to update your YMT files to tell it what you've changed and what you want. So, all right, we're just gonna jump into it. So, like last time, we are gonna be using, I think in this case we might be going for this guy, because last time we worked on this guy, and I believe I don't want to mess the files and put them like in the same spot and mess something up. So we're just gonna be searching for this guy, and we're gonna find the one that's called GMY Arm Goon 02 YDD. And again, we're just going to search, so we only have these files that we want. So if we double click on this one, you can see that for this specific model, when we have the YDD, we have the different pieces for this character. In this case, we have two different heads. We have the lower, and we have the upper. They're all kind of split into weird pieces, but that's fine. In this case, what we want to do is we want to add a shirt to this guy. So it's going to work the same way. For these models, you still have a lot of pieces to work with. In this case, he only has the head and the lower and the upper. But if we go to this tutorial on FiveM, you can see that we actually have all these pieces to work with. And the same goes for props. But in this case, for this guy, we only use head, we only use lower, and we only use upper. That means, in theory, if you wanted, you could attach models to all of these. You actually have 12 slots to work with. So, all right. So we're going to take our model, going to export. And in my case, it's my GTA Custom pet models. And we're just going to call this one tutorial, because last time we called it Tony. And we're just going to dump it in there. What we also want, we want the YFT file. Export that one. And we want the texture dictionary. So we're just going to export that one. Next step is opening Max, which I have at my fucking taskbar. And in the meantime, we can navigate to our folder, so we can take a look at the files that we have exported. So for me, pet models and tutorial. So we have the ODD, we have the OTD, and we have the scale. So for this to work, if you just import the ODD right now, it's going to show up with all the items, but the bone structure and the skeleton and the bone structure is going to be wrong. It's going to come up with something called fake bones. And that means when you start making changes and you start doing things and you export this, it's going to be one heck of a mess. So what you want to do is you want this scale file, rename it with a space and full. You make a copy of this and you go into the GMY. We also have the skeleton file in here. I guess that comes with the might be coming with the which file was it? With the YDD file. So in this case, we don't need to put the we don't have to copy this file into this one because it's already here. If there was no skeleton file, you would have to copy paste it in here and then go back, remove the full part, and then leave it in here. But in this case, it's already there, so we're just going to delete this again. All right. So we're going to go to import, and then we're going to navigate to our folder. Then we're going to import this one. So I'm going to make a copy of this because we want to import this twice. So we can yoink stuff from the model and just put it into our model. It's hard to explain, but you'll see when we get there. So we're just going to make a copy and we're going to open both of these. Again, we're just going to select the tutorial folder because that's where we have all our pieces. So while it does its thing, we're going to go back to OpenIV and we're going to find ourselves a shirt. So like last time, I think the easiest way for me is just do MP Biker. So we get the update X64 DLC packs. And then what do we want to rock? We can do import export DLC X64 models CD image. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to yoink something from the existing models, Rockstar models, and use that. If you want, you can do custom models the exact same way, as long as you make sure everything fits the model. Like again, this comes down to you being able to work with models, knowing how models work. So in this case, we're just going to go into MP import export and mail. And we're going to look for a JBIP. JBIP being the upper shirts and whatnot. We're going to find one that we find interesting for this guy. So we don't want one of these that are open because there's going to be lagging a shirt unless we want to try and retrofit it on top of this guy's model. In this case, we could probably do it, but we don't really want to. And at the same time, because the guy doesn't have arms, we could probably make some arms, attach it, but that also comes back to, do you know how to do that? So in this case, we're just going to find ourselves a long shirt. And since we're getting close to December, I guess we can rock this amazing looking Christmas sweater, which is going to be the JBIP 009U. So we're going to export to format. Going to make a new folder just to make sure we have everything kind of together. I'm going to name that shirt. Select folder. And then we're going to scroll down. We're going to find a texture, which is going to be JBIP 09. And we might as well take all three of these and select folder. Yep. So now that we have everything is imported into Max, you can see that we now have our O2 and our O2 copy. O2 copy is going to be the one where we're going to be taking things from, whereas the other one is going to be the one we will be using. So we're just going to select this guy here, select child nodes and just hide everything. And for this guy, we will be doing the same thing for this one. And for, well, we don't need to do it with lower, but for upper. So right click, select child nodes and hide. So now you can see that we have the head still there, using that as a reference, and we have the pants. But we also have the LOD, so we're going to disable those. We just want the high LOD. And for the lower, we're going to do the same. So since we're going to be working with a shirt, what we're going to do is we're going to go down into our copy. We're going to take our lower 001, which is going to be, oh, no, not our lower, my bad. We're going to take upper. All right, so I already made a mistake. This is what I mean. So if you import something that does not have the skeleton file renamed with full, in this case I have copy now and not full, you can see we get all of these fake bones, which we cannot use for anything. So select this, delete it, and then we're just going to go back, import. We're just going to import the same one again. So learn by doing, and now you can see what happens if you don't rename the skeleton file. So while it does that, it's gonna take a little bit. I'm just gonna let it do its thing.
I guess that's what I love most about it. You know, she isn't just one thing. So much larger than that.
So basically what we're gonna do is we are gonna attach our models to the existing ones, which means that anything that comes with the skinning and the bones is gonna carry over almost, not entirely, not always perfect, but close to perfect or close enough to work. Sometimes something might be sticking out, so you would have to go back and fix that. But in this case, we might not have to do anything. So as before, just select and child, and then we are all right. So I'm gonna take the upper, just move that one into the lower one, because in this case, we are gonna be using the lower one. We're just gonna rename this one to ref, because that's the one we're taking things from. So now we have upper 001 twice. So we're going to rename this to upper 2. Same for this one down here. And this one. And this one. So now we can actually, I think we might only show the high poly one. There we go. And now we are going to go into our shirt. And we are going to import our JBib 009. This tutorial can also be used to do Freemode things. It's almost the same way you would go about it. Obviously, there's more pieces you can work with, since the Freemode model has every single piece in use, whereas the other one does not. So in this case, we're going to be using these. So we are going to take everything else and just delete those. So we have our JBib. Low, medium, and high. So I'm just going to do flat colors, and I'm going to disable transparency, just so it doesn't freak out. Going to hide high, low, and medium. So let's see what it looks like if we hide this one. All right, so this is what it's going to look like in game, basically. So it's obviously, again, yeah, it's not made for him, but it is what it is. We can always fix this by going into editable mesh and just kind of changing the mesh back here. Make sure we didn't select something we didn't want to. Again, this really helps if you know what you're doing when it comes to working with 3D. So we have selected those. Actually, let's make sure we select everything and weld them together. There we go. And then we select these right here. And we're just going to move it back a tiny bit just to make sure it doesn't have this, like the pants part showing through. You can see it's not really made for him. There's a lot of gapping, like gap here, but it's fine. So we have the model set up, and then we are going to go back into our upper 002, and we're going to select our high, and we're going to go to editable mesh. This might, when you click on this one, this might show an error for you. You just say don't show again, and then you just click on yes. It's not going to cause any issues. It's going to be working just fine. So you're going to click on attach. Then you're going to go over here and you're going to click on JBib 009U high. So high is the one we selected, and high is the one we want to attach to it. So if we click on this, and then we just do match material IDs to material. There we go. So what you want to do, again, you select a piece of the old part. So in this case, I'm just going to select this arm, select ID. So we select everything with the ID 1, click on delete, and now we're going to click on the shirt, select ID, and we're going to make this ID 1. So it's going to look a bit funky. It's going to look like this, but that's fine. So we're going to take low, editable mesh, attach, low. Click OK. And make sure you don't have attached. Then we can hide them. This one. Select. Delete. Select. Set ID 1. And then we do medium. Again. Attach. Select. Select. Delete. Select. Select. ID 1. There we go. So now we have this model attached. So the way we can check if everything is all right is we can unhide the high model. You can also do it with the other ones, but in this case, we just want to check this one. And then you do envelope. And then we can see the different bones are going to be attached to different parts. You can see depending on the glow is how attached the bone is going to be to these parts. Red meaning that this bone is going to have 100% effect on that polygon. So you can see the forearm is orange. It means that some of the other bones might have a bit more effect on it. You can see this one specifically has an effect on the almost the bend. But you can see that it's attached and it has the skinning attached to the new model. This is also going to work, like I said, if you do custom models and other things like that. Now that I look at it, you can see that his head is kind of floating. Again, this is because this model and the clothing are not really made for this guy. So you're just going to do view for clipping. We're going to turn this one up and down. So what we can do is we can fit all this stuff to him. Again, if you know how to work with models, if you know how to work with 3D, this is easy peasy. But in this case, we're just going to make a quick thing. I'm just going to do the lazy way. I'm just going to move this up. Okay, so his head is a bit more fucked than that. Doesn't matter. So this is basically just showing a lot of other characters should be all right. In this case, with this guy, you would have to fit either his head or this model. Anyways, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna go into shirt and JBIP. So normal. So we're gonna match these names to what we have already with the guy. So in this case, it's going to be upper U. So for this one, it's going to be, where do we have it? Upper normal. Upper normal 001. Which is basically the same as we have here. Upper normal 00. So we're going to go 002 because that's the one we're on. And then for this one, it's going to be upper spec. So upper spec 002. Then we go back to, we have the 3 textures we want to use, which is also going to be upper. In this case, it's going to be probably uni. Again, so here's where there's a few things. So we have WHI and then we have uni, which is depending on some models use different things. So you would maybe have to play around, but in this case, we're just going to assume it's going to be uni. So A, because it's the first one in line with texture. So it's 002 A uni. And for this one, it's going to be 002 and then B, and then for this one 002 C because it's the third one. So again, A, B, C because they don't do numbers, they do it in letters. A, B, C. And then in Max, we're going to go to our material editor, and then we're going to select high, and we're going to rename them. We might as well do this perfect instead of trying to cut corners. And we might as well do it for this one as well. I don't believe the second one is being used. The second one is here because we attached something to the model and it just adds that material as an extra. So just, you can probably leave the second one alone. ID1, we're going to bump, upper, and then we're obviously, because Max is such an amazing tool, gonna have to navigate into our folder, so pet models, tutorial, shirt, JBIP, and then we're gonna do the upper. So you can see upper normal 001, upper normal 002, diffuse. Skip that one for now. We're gonna do the spec, which is gonna be the other one, and then we're gonna do diffuse. So we're gonna go back. We're just gonna select A, and then this one. You can see it fixes the texture on the guy as well. And then, did I close it or did I minimize it? Oh, no, we still have it good. So that means now we can select low. So keep in mind that low probably does not have a bump. This is empty. Specular is also empty. This is because the low texture does not rely and does not show bump and specular. It doesn't really need that since it's a low poly version and it's only supposed to be seen from miles away. The same goes for the medium one. Again, rename this one. I think if I got on this, just so we're sure. Yep, bump is empty, spec is empty, so just diffuse, and then like that. So you can see they're all now textured. So we can close this down, and we are actually done. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna export this in our folder. We are gonna export it to our, we might as well just make a new folder in our tutorial, which is gonna be export. Just so we have everything in the same place. So export, click on OK. And then we don't want to export the reference one. Just want to export the one we have. Upper 000, 002, and 001. So we're going to export this. And then in the meantime, we can find our model again, because we need the YMT file. So the YMT, which we are just going to drag and drop into our tutorial folder. So like always, I want to have all my things kind of put in the same place. So in my pet models DLC pack, you can basically put this wherever. I just like to have everything kind of together. I'm going to call this folder tutorial just to match with what we're doing. And then the YMT, which we have to export anyways, we might as well drop in here. And then the OTD, which we're gonna have to add textures to. And then when export is done, this might show an error. That's because we've been renaming things. Just click on retry until it goes away. It's a bit up and down. Sometimes it might do this part, like the retry one, and sometimes it doesn't. All right, come on already. This is usually easier when you only work on single files rather than this one file. Because obviously when you do it on if you do it on Freemode or these other pedestrians, you can basically export that specific piece of clothing rather than having to do a big library like this one. So again, if we didn't make a mistake, we would have to redo it again. But hey, it is what it is. So it should be just about done, hopefully. So we can, in the meantime, click on our text dictionary. So what we're going to be missing in here is most likely all these files, because I don't think any of them were embedded. So we are going to go into our shirt. And whoops, not this one. We're going to take our normal maps, drop those in there. Also going to take our A, B, and our C. Click on save. There we go. And then we can go back to our export, our ODD, drag that in here. And, oh, not the YTT. Why do you insist on changing the everything? And then if we do lower, and then we have upper 000, 001, 002. Boop. There we go. Everything looks all right. Hey, you look good in my book. So something to keep in mind is, as per usual, when you import and export, GIMS, or I don't know if it's GIMS or if it's OpenIV, likes to split up things. So if something does look really fucky, in this case it shouldn't because we haven't really messed with anything, but if his head or if some piece of clothing does look really fucky, make sure you select it, go into Edible Mesh, Vertex, Control A, so you have everything selected, and then make sure the welding is set as low as possible, and then weld. This is going to fix basically all the smoothing when you export. Sometimes you don't notice, other times you do notice, but just keep that in mind. If something does look fucky, this is probably why. It still splits it up when you export again, but hey, we just want the smoothing groups to look all right. Sometimes it causes some issues. I don't think we can see it on the model currently because there might not be an issue. Why do I keep clicking on that one? Like, you can't really see anything on his face. It looks all right. This, I think, is just a normal OpenIV thing. The same goes for the upper shirt. I believe there's not really anything because the smoothing looks to be somewhat correct. All right, next step. Since my tutorials always covers streaming, we will be going into our streaming folder, into our server resources, our streaming folders, and then I already have a few. I think we have one from last time, which is Armed Goon. So we're gonna right click, new, and we're just gonna call it the same as this one. So there we go, Armed Goon 02. Then we're gonna take all these files, let's say the 3 files, and put them into the streaming folder. So if we were to launch FiveM right now, we would be able to select this character, but there would not be any more options. That's because, like last time, we need to define that this character now, or this pedestrian now, has another option in his like in the selection, in the menu, in the clothing store, whatever it is that you want to use. So like last time, we're gonna go into our folder with our meta tool. So we're gonna drag and drop the YMT meta tool, and we're gonna get our meta, our XML. So we're gonna right click on this one, go to edit with notepad, and we're gonna hide some of these because it gives us a better overview. So in this case, since we have 3 pieces of clothing, we have the head, we have the lower, and the upper. You can see there is under the hash E248-9C4F. We have 3 items, which they are always going to be defined in whatever is the top. So head is going to be the top item, and then upper is going to be the next one, and then lower is going to be the last one, because that's the way it is, the ID 1, 2, 3, and so on. So let's say if you wanted to add a piece of clothing into the JBIP slot for this character, you would add another item at the end, and then you would also make sure that up here you tell it that JBIP, which is the last one on the list, is on. So you can see that it's 1, 0, 1, 2, and then you would have 3 We might go into more details as I learn. This stuff is still somewhat, is not new, but I'm not a pro at it yet, so I'm not comfortable telling you this is how specifically you should be doing. Anyways, we just want to add another shirt. So in this case, that's the upper, which is going to be number 3. So it's number 2. So again, we're just going to close these. Since we have 2 options, there's 2 items. So what we're going to do is we're going to extend this one. Then we're going to make sure we have from item to item. Going to do another line and then paste. Boop. So since we have 3 different versions to this shirt, let me see, that seems to be the case already. So because we have 3 different versions or 3 textures to this shirt, you can see that let's take a look. He might already have that for his upper. Yeah, as you can see, lower has 3 versions for the pants, 3 versions for the pants, 3 versions for the top, and 3 versions for the top, 3 versions for the top. So as you can see here, this one, these items right here. So the items, these 3 items inside this item is really great because we don't actually have names. These are defining the different textures. So let's say there were 5 colors for this shirt. You would have to add 2 more of these. Now we would have 5 textures. So I'm gonna, on purpose, I'm just gonna leave another one so we have 4, even though we only have 3 textures, because then you can see in game that it's gonna look all weird, but it's gonna show you that, hey, by just adding this line, it's gonna use the next texture. So we're gonna save this, and we're gonna save obviously our file, and we're gonna go back to our folder. We're gonna delete. You don't have to, I believe, but I'm always deleting the YMT just to make sure that we get the new one. So back into our meta tool, gonna take the YMT XML, and I'm gonna create a new one. So there we go. Now we have the model files, the modified YMT, and the modified YTD, all in our streaming folder. So the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna launch our server. I probably have to do the usual. I have to redo my... No, in this case, we don't need the verification, so we can just jump right into it. And then I'm gonna get the guy's name. Gonna let it do its thing as per usual. Then we're gonna load in, and as per usual, I'm just gonna use lambda. So we're gonna go on player skin, spawn player model, and then we're gonna do, I think it was GMY arm goon 02. And you can see this is the default look for this guy. So if we go back and we go to, you remember last time we went to modify props, this guy has 3 hats already and some glasses. So if we did what we did last time, we would have another piece of a hat or clothing or prop. So if we go to modify skin textures, you can see that we now have 2 heads, 3 tops, and 2 legs. So if we go to top and we select not this one, but the next one, there we go. You can see it's a little bit fuggy, but it works. I believe, no, there's not really that much. The shirt is a little bit weird at the, like this part here. But the model is there. The model works. It's probably to do with some weights, but I don't complain because you basically have this already done without having to do any sort of skinning, because you're basically just reusing something else. And we can do E-flex and we can check, like, it's probably gonna look, yeah, you can see it's a little bit fucky. So if we wanted to fix this, we would have to go and back into our model. And then in this case, it would be upper 2. And we go into our high. And we go to skinning, envelope. And then I believe if we select probably the spine, one of the spines that is causing this. Can we check that? No, it's a little bit hard to check with this texture on. You might be able to put a neutral texture on to check this better, but hey. From the looks of it, I believe that this arm piece so there's a little bit of a bone taking over something that it shouldn't be touching. Yeah. So it looks like this bone up here, the shoulder, is having a bit of an effect on something it shouldn't have. But again, you can mess around with it. For the spine, it's probably lacking a little bit around the waist. So if we go into our down in the bottom, and then we click on this one, we can see that the BR arm, the spine 2, spine 3, and upper arm are all affecting these parts of the model, or these parts of the polygons. So we probably want, you know, the spines to have more an effect on these parts. So what we can do is we can select this part across here. Oops. Like we want to select these polygons. Why is it not letting me? Oh, spine. Then we can set it to a little bit more. So we're giving it a more, like a bigger effect. Again, yeah, I really suggest you look up how to work with skinning, weights, bones, and whatnot to have a better understanding of how this works. Like, this is just a quick, dirty way of doing it. And as you can see, it works. It's just not always pretty. Some of them work better than others, and some of them don't work. But hey, here we are. That's how you would literally do it. We now have a shirt on a pedestrian model. So now you know how to do that with a prop, aka helmets, glasses, whatnot, and a piece of clothing. So if you were to do pants, you would do the same way. If you want to do another face, I guess, or a mask, you would do it the same way. We might do a tutorial which covers a bit more. Again, I'm going to be covering the other kind of pedestrians, and I will also be covering Freemode models. So anyways, I hope this helps a little bit, and I'll be seeing you in the next one.